The space station floated above a dead world. It was massive, bigger than most cities on Earth. Inside, the Great Hall of the Galaxy Council stretched for nearly a kilometer. Crystal walls showed the stars outside, and strange lights floated near the ceiling, casting shadows on the beings below. 12 species ruled this part of the galaxy. They had done so for 10,000 years. Their representatives sat in a wide circle, each in a seat designed for their strange bodies. Some had 4 arms. Some had no arms at all. Some breathed water and sat inside floating spheres of liquid. Some looked like insects the size of cars. Some were made of rock and metal. And then there was the human. Kong Taiho stood alone at the smallest podium in the room. He was 52 years old, with gray hair at his temples and calm, tired eyes. He wore a simple black suit, no medals, no fancy clothes. Just a man standing among giants. The other species had always found humans boring. They were small, weak, and their technology was laughable. 50 years ago, when humanity first discovered faster-than-light travel and met the galaxy, the Council had given them a small corner of space and told them to stay quiet. Humans had obeyed. They always obeyed. Taiho had been Earth's ambassador for 20 years. In all that time, he had never raised his voice. He had never complained when other species pushed humans around. He had smiled politely when the Kalathi took human cargo ships. He had nodded respectfully when the Council denied human requests for better territories. He was, everyone agreed. Perfectly harmless. Today would be different. High Chancellor Vorn of the Kalathi Dominion rose from his seat. He was tall, nearly 3 meters, with blue-gray skin and 4 muscular arms. His species controlled the largest military in the known galaxy. They had conquered dozens of worlds. They feared nothing. "This session is now open," Vorn announced. His voice was deep and rough. The translation machines in everyone's ears turned his words into their own languages. "We are here to address the human problem." Taiho's expression did not change. He had known this was coming. For the past decade, Vorn continued, humanity has been expanding into the Outer Rim. They have established 17 colonies and territories that were not assigned to them. They have refused to pay proper taxes on their trade routes. They have ignored our warnings. A murmur ran through the chamber. The other species watched with interest. Some of them smiled. They had never liked humans. Too many humans, too fast. It made them nervous. "The Council has voted," Vorn said. The result was unanimous. "We hereby declare war upon the Terran Union. All human colonies outside their original territories will be seized. All human military vessels will be destroyed. Earth will accept new terms of surrender, or Earth will burn." Silence filled the hall. Every eye turned to the human ambassador. This was the moment. For 50 years, the galaxy had pushed humanity down. They had taken human ships. They had killed human colonists and called it border enforcement. They had laughed at human diplomats and treated them like children. Taiho was supposed to beg. He was supposed to fall to his knees and ask for mercy. That was what humans did. That was all they could do. Instead, he smiled. It was a small smile, just a slight curve of his lips. But something about it made Vorn pause. Something about it made the whole chamber go quiet in a different way. Taiho reached up and touched the communication device behind his ear. He spoke softly, but his voice carried in the silence. "This is Ambassador Kong to Earth Command. Authorization code, Taiho Savin Savan Black. Begin Protocol Awakening. I repeat, begin Protocol Awakening." For a moment, nothing happened. Then Taiho lowered his hand and looked at the Council. His smile had not faded. If anything, it had grown wider. "High Chancellor," he said, "I must thank you. Truly, we have waited a very long time for this." Vorn's eyes narrowed. "Waited? Waited for what?" "Your destruction." "No," Taiho said. "We have been waiting for you to start the war. You see, we could never attack first. Our people would not accept it. Our leaders could not justify it. But if you attack us," he spread his hands, "well, then everything changes." A Kalathi officer rushed into the chamber. He ran to Vorn and whispered something in the High Chancellor's ear. Vorn's blue face went pale. "That is impossible," Vorn said. "Is it?" Taiho asked. "Let me guess. Your forces just tried to attack the human colony at New Busan. They expected 1 or 2 small defense ships. Instead, they found a fleet. A very large fleet. A fleet that, according to your records, does not exist." The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded answers. Some called for their own ships to report in. More messengers arrived. Each one brought worse news. Human ships were appearing everywhere. Not the small, weak vessels the galaxy knew. These were warships. Massive warships. Warships with weapons that could tear through Kelethi armor like paper. "How?" Vorn demanded. His voice cracked. "How is this possible? We have watched you for 50 years. Your technology is primitive. Your military is nothing." Taiho walked out from behind his podium. He moved slowly, calmly, like a man taking a pleasant walk. The guards around the chamber raised their weapons, but he ignored them. "You watched what we wanted you to see," he said. "Every failed experiment. Every weak ship. Every struggling colony. We showed you exactly what you expected. And you believed it. Because you wanted to believe it. Because you needed to believe that you were superior." He stopped in the center of the chamber and looked around at the assembled powers of the galaxy. "For 100 years, since first contact, humanity has prepared for this moment. We knew you would never accept us as equals. We knew that eventually you would try to destroy us. So we got ready." Vorn stepped forward, his 4 hands clenched into fists. "You are bluffing. This is some kind of trick." "No trick," Taiho said. "Right now, human fleets are entering the home systems of every species that voted for this war. Not to attack, not yet. Just to show you what we have. To show you what we have always had." His smile faded. For the first time, the chamber saw something else in the human's eyes. Not fear, not weakness. Something cold and hard and very, very old. "You wanted war," Taiho said. "You have it. And you have no idea what you have awakened." The lights flickered. Through the crystal walls, they could see it now. Ships. Human ships. Hundreds of them, appearing out of nowhere, surrounding the station. "Suggest," Taiho said quietly, "that you contact your governments. Tell them that the humans are no longer asking for respect. We are taking it." He turned and walked toward the exit. No one tried to stop him. Behind him, the Galaxy Council descended into chaos. 3 kilometers below the mountains of Korea, there was a city that did not exist on any map. Admiral Park Soo-jin walked through its corridors, like she had done every day for the past 60 years. She was 142 years old, though she looked no older than 50. Human life extension technology had been officially limited to small improvements. Unofficially, Soo-jin and others like her had been alive for over a century. Waiting for this day, the underground city stretched for hundreds of kilometers. It held laboratories, factories, training centers, and the largest military command center in human history. 10 million people worked here, and none of them existed in any government record. To the galaxy, they were dead, or they had never been born at all. Soo-jin entered the main command room. Massive screens covered every wall, showing maps of human space and beyond. Red dots marked enemy positions. Blue dots marked human forces. There were a lot more blue dots than anyone outside this room knew. "The protocol is active," said a voice behind her. General Yoon Hansul stood at attention. He was younger than Soo-jin, only 90 years old. But he commanded the hidden asteroid bases scattered throughout the solar system and beyond. "Good," Soo-jin said. "Connect me to the others." The screens flickered. 2 more faces appeared. Fleet Marshal Onari, a woman with sharp eyes and gray-streaked hair, commanded the dimensional shipyard's facilities, hidden in pocket universes that human scientists had learned to create decades ago. Director Baek-jun, head of Terran intelligence, looked tired but satisfied. She had spent 40 years placing spies in every alien government. "It has begun," Soo-jin said. "Ambassador Kong has confirmed. The Council declared war." The 1st through 7th Armadas are ready to deploy. We can have ships in every enemy system within 6 hours. Intelligence assets are standing by, June added. We have operatives in 90% of their military command structures. When you give the word, we can disable their communications, corrupt their navigation systems, and feed them false information. Hansel brought up a display. The asteroid networks are fully armed. If any enemy ship gets within range of Earth or the core colonies, we can hit them with enough firepower to crack a moon. Sujin looked at the map. 100 years of work. 100 years of patience, sacrifice, and lies. It all came down to this moment. Before we begin, she said, I want everyone to remember how we got here. The room went quiet. They all knew the story, but some things needed to be said out loud. 103 years ago, humanity made first contact with the galaxy. We were excited. We thought we had found friends among the stars. Sujin's voice was steady, but there was old pain in it. We were wrong. She pulled up historical records. Images flashed across the screens. Human diplomats being laughed at. Human colonies being raided by alien peacekeepers. Human ships being seized for inspection and never returned. The council saw us as primitives, useful for cheap labor, good for nothing else. They gave us a tiny corner of space and told us to be grateful. When we tried to expand, they pushed us back. When we tried to trade fairly, they cheated us. When we complained, they ignored us. More images. A human colony world on fire. Bodies floating in space. Children crying in refugee camps. The incident at Gangwa Colony, Sujin said. 30 years after first contact, Kelethi warships destroyed the settlement because humans had built a mining station too close to Kelethi territory. 400,000 dead. The council ruled it was justified. They said we had violated the treaty. I lost my parents there, Hansel said quietly. I was 12 years old. Many of us lost people, Sujin replied. And that was when the decision was made. Not by politicians. Not by generals. By the people themselves. Humanity voted in secret across every colony, every nation, every station. The question was simple. Do we accept this forever, or do we prepare to fight back? The vote had been 94% in favor of fighting back. The problem was, we could not win. Not then. The Kelethi alone had 10,000 warships. We had maybe 200. Their technology was centuries ahead of ours. So our leaders made a different choice. We would not fight now. We would wait. We would learn. We would build. And when the time came, we would be ready. Sujin waved her hand. The screen showed the fruits of a century of secret work. Hidden factories on moons and asteroids. Producing ships by the thousands. Scientists working on captured alien technology, improving it, making it better. Training facilities where soldiers learned to fight in ways the galaxy had never seen. Spy networks that reached into the heart of every alien government. We let them think we were weak, Sujin said. Every time a human scientist made a breakthrough, we hid it. Every time we've built a new weapon, we put it in storage. Every time our people wanted to fight back, we told them to wait. Just a little longer. Just a little more preparation, June spoke up. The hardest part was the intelligence work. We had to make them believe their own lies. Whenever their spies came to check on us, we showed them what they expected to see. Broken ships. Failed experiments. Struggling colonists. They never looked deeper because they did not think there was anything to find. And now? Nari asked. Sujin looked at the map one more time. Enemy fleets were already moving toward human space. They expected an easy victory. They expected humans to surrender like they always did. They had no idea what was coming. Now we show them the truth, Sujin said. All assets are authorized to engage. But remember our rules. We are not them. We do not kill civilians. We do not destroy worlds. We fight their military, we break their power, and then we offer peace. Real peace. On our terms. And if they refuse, Hansel asked. Then we keep fighting until they accept. but we never become monsters. That is what separates us from them. That is what makes us human. She stood straight and looked at her commanders through the screens. For 100 years, we have pretended to be weak. We have swallowed our pride. We have watched our people suffer. We did this because we knew that one day we would have the chance to change everything. That day is today. Her voice rose, filling the command center. Send the signal to all forces. Operation Dawn begins now. Show the galaxy what humanity really is. Across human space, hidden bases came to life. Ships that had waited in silence for decades powered up their engines. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives checked their weapons one final time, and in the depths of space, dimensional gates began to open, revealing fleets that should not exist, carrying weapons that should not be possible, crewed by a species that had spent a century learning one simple lesson: never underestimate humanity. The galaxy was about to learn that lesson too. The Kalathi 3rd Expeditionary Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel with perfect precision. 800 warships, each one bristling with weapons, arranged themselves in attack formation above the human colony of New Busan. Admiral Korath stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Divine Claw. He was a veteran of 40 campaigns. He had burned worlds and crushed rebellions. This mission, he thought, would be the easiest of his career. Scan the system, he ordered. His sensors officer worked the controls. Admiral, I am detecting one ship in orbit around the colony. Civilian class. No weapons. Korath made a sound of disgust. This is their defense? One cargo ship? It appears so, Admiral. The colony itself has basic ground defenses, but nothing that can threaten our fleet. Pathetic. Korath leaned back in his command chair. All ships prepare to commence bombardment. We will destroy their orbital facilities first, then land troops to secure the population. On the single human ship, Commander Lim Doyan watched the enemy fleet arrange itself. His vessel looked like garbage. The hull was dented and scarred. The engines sputtered. The weapon systems appeared to be offline. It was all fake, Commander, his second officer said. The Kalathi fleet is powering weapons. Good, Doyan smiled. Send the signal. Time to wake up. He pressed a button on his console and spoke into the communication system. All units, this is Doyan. Protocol awakening is active. Reveal. For a moment, nothing happened. Admiral Korath's officers began the countdown to bombardment. Then the universe changed. Doyan's cargo ship split apart. The ugly outer hull fell away like a broken shell, revealing the warship hidden inside. The TRN's Chungmugang was 3 times the size of any Kalathi vessel, covered in weapons that glowed with strange energy. Its engines lit up with a blue fire that hurt to look at, Admiral Korath started to say. But that was only the beginning. All across the system, empty space suddenly became crowded. Ships appeared out of nowhere, 400 of them, as their cloaking systems deactivated. They'd been there for years, hiding, waiting, running so silent that no sensor could detect them. And then came the dimensional gate. Behind the colony planet, reality itself tore open. A hole in space, burning with white light, expanding until it was larger than the planet itself. Through it came the first Terran Armada. Admiral Korath had seen many things in his long career. He had never seen anything like this. Human dreadnoughts poured through the gate. Each one was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons that made Kalathi technology look like children's toys. Carriers launched thousands of fighter craft. Battleships moved into position with a speed that should have been impossible for vessels so large. How many? Korath asked. His voice was barely a whisper. Admiral ... Sensors officer was trembling. I am counting over 2,000 capital ships. And more are still coming through the gate. 2,000. The entire Kalathi Navy had only 15,000 ships, spread across hundreds of systems. The humans had brought 2,000 to this single battle. This is impossible, Korath said. Their technology is primitive. They do not have dimensional gates. They do not have ships like this. Our intelligence? Your intelligence was wrong, Commander Doyan's voice came through the communication channel. The humans had hacked into Calathi frequencies. Your intelligence has been wrong for 100 years. On the screen, Doyan's face appeared. He was young, maybe 30 years old by human standards, with short dark hair and calm eyes. Admiral Karathi said, "You have two choices. You can power down your weapons and surrender, and your crews will be treated with honor. Or you can fight, and you will die. There is no third option." Korath's 4 hands gripped his chair. Surrender? To humans? The shame would destroy him. His family would be disgraced for generations. "All ships," he commanded, "open fire." The Calathi fleet attacked. 800 ships launched everything they had at the human forces. Missiles screamed through space. Energy beams cut through the darkness. It was enough firepower to destroy a small planet. The human ships did not even try to dodge. Their shields absorbed everything. Calathi weapons splashed against energy barriers that glowed gold with each impact. Not a single human ship took damage. Then the humans fired back. Commander Doyan watched without pleasure as the Calathi fleet came apart. Human weapons were not just better. They were different. Gravity beams pulled ships out of formation and crushed them like paper. Dimensional torpedoes opened tiny gates inside enemy vessels, teleporting pieces of them into the void. Energy cannons cut through Calathi armor as if it did not exist. The battle lasted 11 minutes when it was over. The Divine Claw floated alone in a sea of wreckage. Every other Calathi ship had been destroyed or disabled. Admiral Korath stood on his broken bridge, surrounded by the bodies of his officers, and watched human boarding craft approach. "This is not possible," he kept saying. "This is not possible." But it was. Across the galaxy, the same scene repeated itself. Calathi forces attacked human colonies and found hidden armies waiting for them. Human fleets appeared in systems that had never seen a human ship before. Communications networks went dark as human intelligence operatives activated their plans. On the council station, representatives screamed at each other as reports flooded in. The Calathi home system was under human blockade. The Virac supply lines had been cut. The Mendari defensive network had been disabled by sabotage. Ambassador Kong Tai-ho sat in the human embassy on the station, drinking tea and watching the chaos through the window. His communication device buzzed. Ambassador Admiral Park Soo-jin's voice said, "Phase 1 is complete. All targets have been secured. Enemy losses are estimated at 60% of their combined military strength. Human casualties are minimal. And civilian populations?" Tai-ho asked. "Untouched. As ordered. We have been very careful." Tai-ho nodded. That was important. Perhaps the most important thing. What are the enemy governments saying? Most are in shock. They do not understand what happened. A few are already asking for negotiations. Tai-ho set down his tea. "Tell them we are ready to talk. But on our terms, not theirs. And make sure they understand one thing." "What is that, Ambassador?" Tai-ho looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were reshaping the galaxy. 100 years of patience was finally paying off. "Make sure they understand that we could have killed them all," he said. "We could have burned their worlds and ended their species. We chose not to. And that choice is the only reason they are still alive to negotiate." He ended the call and returned to his tea. Outside, alien diplomats ran through the corridors, trying to understand how their universe had changed so completely in a single day. They had wanted war with humanity, now they had it, and they were just beginning to realize what that meant. 1 month after the war began, Captain Shin Yaren led her Marines through the corridors of Calathi High Command Station. The station floated above the Calathi homeworld, a massive ring of metal and crystal that had been the center of their military for 3,000 years. Now it belonged to humanity. Yaren moved carefully, her weapon raised, her soldiers following in perfect formation. They wore advanced combat suits that made them faster and stronger than any Calathi warrior. Their helmets displayed tactical information from a dozen different sensors. They could see through walls, track heat signatures, and communicate silently through thought alone. but their orders were clear. Minimum casualties. Take prisoners. Protect civilians. Contact ahead, one of her soldiers whispered through the communication link. 12 Kalathi guards. They are barricaded in the next corridor, Yaren nodded. Non-lethal. We do this clean. Her team moved. Flash grenades flew through the air, filling the corridor with blinding light. Stun weapons crackled. In 8 seconds, it was over. 12 Kalathi guards lay unconscious on the floor, unharmed except for headaches they would have when they woke up. Secure them, Yaren ordered. Medical team will check them in 5 minutes. One of her younger soldiers, a private named Cho Min-jae, looked at the fallen enemies. Captain, why are we being so careful? They killed millions of our people over the years. Yaren stopped. She turned to face the young man. His eyes were hard with anger. She understood. She had lost family too. Private, she said. What do you know about the Ganghwa massacre? 400,000 dead. Kalathi warships burned the colony because we built a mining station in the wrong place. Yes. And when it happened, humanity made a choice. We could have attacked immediately. We were weak, but we could have hurt them. We could have started a war that would have ended with our extinction. Yaren's voice was steady. Instead, we chose to wait, to prepare, to become strong enough to win. So now we are strong. We have one. And now we face another choice. We can do to them what they did to us. We can burn their worlds, kill their children, make them suffer the way we suffered. She shook her head. Or we can be better than them. We can show the galaxy that humanity does not need to be cruel to be powerful. Min-jae was quiet for a moment. And if they do not learn, if they attack us again, then we defeat them again, and again, and again, until they understand that peace is their only option. Yaren put a hand on his shoulder. Revenge feels good, private, but it does not build anything. It does not make the future safer for your children. Only peace can do that. She turned and continued down the corridor. Her team followed. At the end of the station, they found what they were looking for. The command center. Inside, Supreme Commander Voroth, the highest military authority in the Kalathi Dominion, had barricaded himself with his personal guards. Supreme Commander, Yaren called through the door. This is Captain Shin of the Terran Marine Corps. Your station has fallen. Your fleet has been destroyed. You have 2 options. Come out peacefully, or we will come in and get you. Either way, this ends now. No. Silence. Then the sound of weapons being dropped. The door opened. Voroth was massive, even for a Kalathi. His 4 arms hung at his sides. His eyes were filled with something Yaren had never expected to see in a Kalathi commander. Fear. You will kill us, he said. You will do what we would have done. Yaren lowered her weapon. No, we will not. But the Ganghwa colony, the raids, the centuries of abuse. Voroth's voice cracked. We deserve death. Maybe you do. Yaren gestured for her team to secure the prisoners. But we are not here to give you what you deserve. We are here to end this war. And the only way to truly end a war is to build something after it. Something better than what came before. She looked the Supreme Commander in the eyes. You will be tried for your crimes. Some of you will go to prison. Your government will pay for what it has done. But your people will live. Your world will remain. Your children will have a future. She paused. That is more than you ever offered us. Across the galaxy, the same story repeated itself. Human forces captured enemy stations and treated prisoners with respect. They delivered food and medicine to civilian populations. They protected hospitals and schools. The galaxy watched in confusion. This was not how conquerors behaved. Conquerors took slaves. Conquerors burned cities. Conquerors made the defeated suffer. Humans did none of these things. On the council station, Ambassador Kong Tai-ho addressed an emergency meeting of the remaining powers. Most of the original council members had been captured or were hiding. Only a few neutral species and defeated governments remained. Let me be clear, Tai-ho said. Humanity did not want this war. We spent a century preparing for it, yes, but we always hoped it would never come. We hoped that someday the galaxy would accept us as equals without us having to prove ourselves through violence. He placed a data chip on the podium. The screens around the chamber lit up with documents, recordings, and evidence. This contains a record of every crime committed against humanity since first contact. Every colony destroyed. Every ship seized. Every diplomat murdered. Every treaty violated. His voice was calm but heavy. We documented everything. We remembered everything. And now, the galaxy will see the truth of what was done to us. A Mendari representative spoke up. And what will you do with this truth? Demand our destruction? No. Taiho shook his head. We demand justice. Real justice. The leaders who ordered these crimes will face trial. The governments that enabled them will pay reparations. The systems that allowed this to happen will be reformed. And if we refuse, you will not refuse. Taiho's smile returned, but there was no warmth in it. Because right now, human fleets are in orbit above every homeworld of every species that participated in this war. We could destroy you all before your lunch gets cold. You let that sink in. But we will not, because that is not who we are. We are offering you something your governments never offered us. A chance to make things right. A chance to build a real peace based on equality and respect. He looked around the chamber. Humanity's not asking for revenge. We are asking for a future where our children and your children can live together without fear. That is all we have ever wanted. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, one by one, the representatives began to nod. Back on the Kalathi station, Captain Yeren watched the first human relief ships arrive. They carried doctors, engineers, and enough supplies to feed a planet. Kalethi civilians, who had expected to be enslaved or killed, instead received blankets, food, and medical care. A young Kalethi child, barely old enough to walk, approached a human soldier. The soldier was huge in his combat armor, frightening to look at. The child should have been terrified instead. The soldier knelt down, opened his helmet, and offered the child a piece of candy. Yer watched the scene and felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. This was why they had waited. This was why they had planned. Not for revenge, not for glory, but for this moment. The moment when humanity could show the galaxy that strength did not have to mean cruelty. That victory did not have to mean destruction. They had won the war. Now it was time to win the peace. 6 months after the war began, the galaxy was a different place. President Moon Juan stood before the cameras in the new Terran Capitol building in Seoul. Behind her, through the massive windows, the city's skyline told the truth about humanity. Towers of glass and steel reached toward the clouds. Orbital elevators carried ships to and from space stations that glittered like jewels in the daylight sky. Flying vehicles moved in organized streams. Above streets filled with people from a dozen different worlds. This was not the struggling, primitive Earth the galaxy had believed in. This was the real Earth, the Earth that humanity had hidden for 100 years. Citizens of the Terran Union, President Moon began. Her voice carried across human space and beyond, and citizens of the galaxy. 6 months ago, war was declared upon our people. Today, that war is over. She paused to let the words sink in. The Galaxy Council, in its old form, no longer exists. In its place, a new organization has been created. The Galactic Assembly will include all species as equal members with equal votes and equal rights. No longer will a few powerful races decide the fate of everyone else. The camera pulled back to show the people standing behind her. Human leaders, yes, but also representatives from a dozen alien species. Some had been enemies 6 months ago. Now they stood together. The species that waged war against us have accepted the terms of peace. They will pay reparations for a century of crimes against humanity. Their military forces will be limited. Their governments will be restructured to prevent future aggression. Moon's expression softened, but they will not be destroyed. Their people will not suffer. Their children will grow up in peace. She looked directly into the camera. Humanity had a choice. We could have used our power to dominate, to take revenge, to become the very thing we hated. We chose differently. We chose to show the galaxy that there is another way. Across human space, people watched the broadcast. On New Busan, Commander Lim Doyan sat in a cafe, watching the screen with fellow officers. They had won the first battle of the war. Now they were learning to win the peace in the underground city beneath Korea. Admiral Park Soo-jin watched from the command center that had been her home for 60 years. Soon, she would retire. Her work was done. On a transport ship heading home, Captain Shin Yaren held hands with Private Cho Min-jae, who had learned that mercy was not weakness during the campaign. They had found something unexpected in the war. Each other, and in a small office in the new Galactic Assembly headquarters. Ambassador Kong Tai-ho turned off the broadcast and smiled. There was a knock at his door. "Come in," he said. A small figure ran into the room. Kong Murray, his granddaughter, 7 years old, with bright eyes and a smile that could light up any room. Her mother, Tai-ho's daughter, followed behind. "Grandpa." Murray jumped into his arms. "We watched the president talking. Everyone was clapping." "Were they?" Tai-ho hugged her tight. "That is good. That means people are happy. Are the bad aliens gone?" Tai-ho set her down and knelt to meet her eyes. "There are no bad aliens, little one. There were aliens who did bad things. Yes. But they were not evil. They were afraid, and they made wrong choices. Now, they have a chance to make better choices." Murray thought about this with the seriousness that only a child could manage. "So we are friends now?" "We are trying to be friends. It will take time. Trust does not come easily, especially after so many years of hurt." Tai-ho stood and looked out the window. Ships from different worlds passed by, human vessels and alien vessels flying together, but we are trying, and that is what matters. His daughter spoke up. "Father, you have been working so hard. You should rest." "Soon," Tai-ho said. "There is still much to do. Treaties to finalize. Reparations to organize. New systems to build." He smiled tiredly. "But yes, soon I will rest." That evening, Tai-ho took Murray for a walk in the gardens outside the assembly building. The gardens had been designed to include plants from every member species. Strange flowers bloomed next to familiar trees. The air smelled of 100 different worlds. They sat on a bench overlooking a small lake. The setting sun painted the water in shades of gold and orange. Alien visitors walked the paths alongside humans, their conversations a mix of languages and translator hums. Grandpa Murray said, "Why did we have to hide for so long?" Tai-ho had been waiting for this question. He had thought about how to answer it for years. "Because we needed to make sure they started the fight," he said. "If we had attacked first, we would have been the villains. The rest of the galaxy would have joined together against us. But because they attacked us, everyone could see that we were defending ourselves. We did not want war. They forced it upon us. We could have stopped them before. You were strong enough." "Yes." But strength is not just about power. The strongest thing a person can do is choose not to fight when they could win easily. We had to wait until they forced us, so everyone would know we never wanted war. We only wanted peace." Murray leaned against his arm. "Were you scared?" Tai-ho thought about all the years of pretending. The insults he had swallowed. The anger he had hidden. The fear that maybe one day the plan would fail and humanity would pay the price. "Yes," he admitted. "I was scared every day. But I kept going because I believed in our people. I believed that if we were patient, if we were smart, if we stuck to our values, we would get through it. And you did." "We did." Tai-ho smiled. "All of us, together." They watched the sun sink below the horizon. The first stars appeared in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, human ships patrolled the borders of a new peace. Alien diplomats worked alongside human counterparts to build new laws and new relationships. Former enemies learned to become partners. It would not be easy. There would be setbacks and conflicts and disagreements. Trust built over months could be destroyed in moments if people were not careful. The work of peace was harder than the work of war, but humanity had proven something important. They had shown that you could be strong without being cruel, that you could win without destroying, that you could defeat your enemies and then help them become something better. Grandpa Murray said sleepily, "What happens now?" Tai-Ho watched the stars, those distant points of light that humanity had once only dreamed of reaching. Now they belong to everyone. "Now we build something new," he said. "Something that has never existed before. A galaxy where every species is equal. Where children like you can grow up without fear. Where the mistakes of the past are remembered but not repeated." He picked her up as she drifted toward sleep. "Will not be perfect. Nothing ever is. But it will be better than what came before. And that is all anyone can hope for." He carried her back toward the building, passing groups of humans and aliens talking together, laughing together, working together. 100 years of patience had led to this moment. 100 years of sacrifice and planning and hope, and now, finally, humanity could stop hiding. They could stop pretending to be weak. They could show the galaxy who they really were. Not conquerors, not destroyers, just humans, flawed and stubborn and sometimes foolish, but also brave and compassionate and determined. To make things right, the galaxy had feared what humanity would become with power. Instead, they found something far more dangerous than any weapon. They found a species that believed in second chances. As Tai-Ho entered the building, Murray mumbled one last question. "Are we the good guys, Grandpa?" He kissed her forehead and smiled. "We try to be, little one. Every day we try to be." And that, he thought, was all that really mattered.